somewhere in the pre-dawn darkness over the Persian Gulf. A flight of aircraft that officially did not exist crossed into Iranian airspace. There are no press conferences, no declarations of war, no resolutions, just the sudden, terrifying silence of air defense systems going offline, one by one, across the most fortified nation in the Middle East. And in the moments that followed, the world changed. Tonight, we go inside the operation the entire world saw, but that almost no one truly understands. We will examine what actually happened, how it was planned, what it cost, and most critically, what comes next. To understand why the United States and Israel struck Iran, you have to go back, not years, but decades. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution didn't just change a government. It rewired the entire geopolitical architecture of the Middle East. In a single year, America lost its most powerful regional ally and gained its most enduring adversary. For the next 4 decades, Iran and the United States fought a war that was never officially declared, a shadow war of assassinations, cyber attacks, proxy militias, and economic strangulation. Iran funded Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and Shia militias in Iraq. The United States armed Iran's enemies, imposed crippling sanctions, and deployed carrier strike groups to the Persian Gulf. But at the center of everything, the one red line that every U.S. president and every Israeli prime minister drew was Iran's nuclear program. Since the early 2000s, Iran had been enriching uranium. By 2023, it had stockpiled enough 60% enriched uranium to produce multiple nuclear warheads within weeks if it chose to do so. This was the threshold, and everyone in Washington and Tel Aviv knew it. The question was never if something would happen. The question was when and how far it would go. Before a single bomb was dropped in this operation, the groundwork had been laid over 15 years of covert action. It began with Stuxnet, the world's first true cyber weapon, jointly developed by the United States and Israel, and deployed around 2007. Stuxnet infiltrated the Siemens control systems running Iran's nuclear centrifuges and made them tear themselves apart, while reporting normal operation to Iranian engineers. It was a ghost attack. Iran didn't know what was happening until nearly 1,000 centrifuges had been destroyed. Then came the assassinations. Between 2010 and 2020, 5 of Iran's top nuclear scientists were killed, shot on their way to work, blown up by magnetic bombs attached to their cars, eliminated with a precision that spoke of world-class intelligence penetration. In November 2020, Iran's most important nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, was killed by a remote-operated weapon so advanced that it fired 13 shots in under a minute with no human shooter present. The Mossad had deployed a 1-ton, satellite-guided, AI-assisted machine gun, disassembled it, and smuggled it into Iran piece by piece. This was not the work of a nation preparing to negotiate. This was a nation preparing to act. In the months before the strikes, U.S. and Israeli intelligence entered a period of extraordinary operational tempo. Satellites repositioned. Signals intelligence units monitored Iranian military communications around the clock. Deep cover agents inside Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps fed targeting data back to Mossad case officers in third countries. The critical question was not whether Iran's nuclear sites could be hit, it was whether they could be destroyed. The Fordow enrichment facility, for example, is buried under 80 meters of solid mountain. Conventional bombs could not reach it. Only the United States possessed the massive ordnance penetrator, a 30,000-pound bunker buster capable of penetrating that depth. Israel had B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. Israel did not. This is why coordination with Washington was not optional. For Israel, this operation was existential, but it was also impossible without American hardware. US B-2 Spirit bombers, the world's most advanced stealth aircraft, were repositioned to Diego Garcia, a remote U.S. base in the Indian Ocean that puts them within striking distance of Iran. The message was unmistakable to anyone watching classified satellite feeds. The operation unfolded in stages, with the precision of a master chess player clearing the board before the final move. First came the electronic warfare barrage. EA, 18G Growler jets from the U.S. Navy's Carrier Strike Group in the Persian Gulf unleashed a wall of jamming signals that blinded Iran's Russian-supplied S-300 and domestically produced Bavar 373 air defense systems. Radar operators in Tehran watched their screens fill with noise. They could see nothing. Simultaneously, Israeli F-35I Adir jets, flying low, fast, and invisible to radar, crossed into Iranian airspace via a carefully planned corridor through Iraqi and Syrian airspace. Each aircraft carried a combination of precision-guided munitions, Spice 2000 bombs, Rampage supersonic cruise missiles, and specialized penetrator warheads. At Natanz, the primary target was the underground fuel enrichment hall, home to over 19,000 centrifuges. The first wave of strikes collapsed entry tunnels and destroyed ventilation infrastructure. Without air circulation, the underground halls became unusable, and without access, they could not be repaired under fire. At Fordow, the challenge was different. This was where the B-2 missions from Diego Garcia became critical. Flying a 14-hour round trip, American B-2 Spirit bombers released GBU 57 massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bombs that hit the same spot in rapid succession, penetrating deeper with each impact before the final bomb detonated at depth. The Fordow facility, which Iran had spent a decade engineering to be impervious to air attack, was breached. At the same time, Israel's air defense network at home had gone to maximum alert. Iran's proxy forces, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, had been warned. Retaliation would come. The question was how hard and how fast. The entire kinetic phase lasted approximately 90 minutes, but its consequences would echo for decades. Iran did not stay silent. Within hours, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched a massive ballistic missile barrage toward Israel. Hundreds of Shahab, 3, Ahmad, and Gadr series ballistic missiles, augmented by swarms of Shahid loitering munitions. It was the largest ballistic missile attack in history, but Israel was ready. The three-layer missile defense architecture, Iron Dome handling short-range rockets, David's Sling for medium-range threats, and Arrow 3 for ballistic missiles in the exo-atmosphere, worked alongside U.S. Navy destroyers firing SM-3 interceptors from the eastern Mediterranean. Interception rates exceeded 95%. A small number of warheads got through, causing casualties and damage in northern Israel. But the strategic blow Iran intended, a demonstration of devastating reach, failed. The Houthis in Yemen launched a simultaneous barrage of anti-ship missiles toward U.S. carrier strike groups in the Red Sea. The USS Abraham Lincoln's defensive systems engaged multiple targets. No ships were sunk, but a message had been delivered. This conflict had escalated from a bilateral affair to a regional war. In the days that followed, the military and intelligence community conducted a brutal, honest damage assessment, and the results were more complex than either side wanted to admit. Natanz, the above-ground components were devastated. The underground hulls suffered significant damage, but the deepest sections, buried under 8 meters of reinforced concrete, survived. Iran would need 12 to 18 months to restore partial operation. Fordow, multiple GBU 57 strikes collapsed significant portions of the underground halls. The facility was assessed as inoperable for at least 2 years. This was the major strategic success of the operation. Isfahan's uranium conversion facility, destroyed. The specialized equipment here cannot be replaced quickly. Some components require years of manufacturing. But here is the uncomfortable truth that every honest analyst acknowledged. Iran's nuclear knowledge cannot be bombed. Its scientists, its designs, its computer simulations, these existed in distributed form, in human minds, in encrypted servers across the country. The physical program could be set back. It could not be eliminated. The immediate consequences of strikes rippled outward with the speed and force of a shockwave through water. Oil markets. Within 24 hours of the strikes, Brent crude surged past $120 per barrel. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global oil supply flows, was placed on the highest threat level. Iran threatened to mine the strait. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, headquartered in Bahrain, began round-the-clock maritime patrol operations. Diplomatic fallout. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Russia and China condemned the strikes as violations of international law. The United States and Israel were diplomatically isolated from large portions of the international community, but neither government showed any indication of remorse. The regional order was fundamentally altered. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, who had privately feared a nuclear Iran more than almost anything else, quietly expressed relief while publicly condemning the strikes. The Abraham Accords, which had begun normalizing Arab-Israeli relations, were tested but ultimately survived. Iran's domestic politics shifted dramatically. The strikes unified the Iranian public behind the government to a degree that years of sanctions had not achieved. Reformist voices were silenced. Hardliners consolidated power. The IRGC's budget was increased. Revenge, they promised, would come, not in a day, not in a week, but in years, through every proxy and every means available. Perhaps the most consequential long-term effect was the nuclear question itself. Iran's supreme leader issued a fatwa, a religious ruling, that publicly shifted Iran's nuclear posture. The question of weaponization, which had been officially denied for decades, was now openly debated within Iran's leadership councils. The strikes that were meant to prevent Iranian nuclear weapons may have accelerated the political will to build them. For the United States, the operation opened a profound strategic debate. Had the strikes achieved their objective? Had they bought time? Or had they simply started a clock counting down to a more dangerous future? The Joint Chiefs' classified assessment, portions of which were later leaked, reportedly concluded the program had been set back by 2 to 4 years. But the resolve to rebuild it had never been stronger in the long sweep of history. The U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran will be recorded as one of the defining moments of the early 21st century. Whether they will be remembered as the act that prevented catastrophe or the act that made it inevitable depends on what comes next. We know some things with certainty. Iran will rebuild. It will be more cautious about physical vulnerability, dispersing its program into smaller, deeper, more hidden facilities. It will accelerate its development of asymmetric capabilities, cyber weapons, drone swarms, proxy militias that can impose costs without triggering another conventional strike. We also know that the world has crossed a threshold. For decades, the unwritten rule of nuclear diplomacy was that nations with nuclear ambitions could negotiate, delay, and obfuscate, and that military action against those programs was a last resort that major powers would approach with extraordinary caution. That threshold has now been crossed. Openly, explicitly, with the world watching. The consequences of that crossing extend far beyond Iran. Every nation watching, North Korea, every aspiring regional power, is now recalibrating its calculations. What is the value of a nuclear deterrent if it can be struck before it is complete? And what is the cost of being the nation that strikes it? These are not questions with clean answers. They are the questions that will define international security for a generation. What we know is this. The world that existed before those aircraft crossed into Iranian airspace is gone. What replaces it is still being written in intelligence reports, in diplomatic cables, in the decisions of leaders sitting in rooms we will never see, making choices whose consequences we will live with for decades. The night the Middle East changed forever was not the end of anything. It was the beginning of something we do not yet have a name for.